Yeah, 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 yeah. Started in the land down under Redbelly in the mix. Blockchain revolution, fixing all the tricks. Vincent Gramoli, visionary in the game. Built a foolproof chain, bringing the flame.
Welcome back, folks, to another Redbelly Insights episode. I'm your host, Mark Montfort from Team Not Centralized, but also doing a lot of work with Redbelly. And I'm here with the founder, the man, the myth, the legend, Vincent Gramoli. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're here in a new place. This is the first time we've filmed live in a studio. Thanks to Chris, who I film with, an AI podcast, and to the folks here at FX Global for giving us like access to this space. But I think it's really interesting to actually do something live. You know, like we have you at meetups and stuff like that. It's a lot of the stuff, you know, for all the previous Redbelly Insights has been online. Like, when was the last time you did, apart from the meetup that we've done, like when was the last live thing that you did? Sounds like it might have been overseas.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I cannot remember. I think I'm doing too many of these.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of a roadshow, right? Like, and when you're speaking at these, is it more talking about Redbelly specifically, or is it more the research side of things?
Yeah, so it depends. You know,
Okay.
It depends on my role, but yeah, definitely I go to conferences either on the role of professor at the University of Sydney or a founder of Redbelly, in which case I have a different attitude and usually talking to a different audience.
Fantastic. For those folks that don't know, let's get into a bit of your background as well. And speaking of the professor side of things, the University of Sydney, when we ran a meetup last week, or the week before, I think it was, you had a lot of your students there that were in the audience. But what was this kind of background that led you into working in and researching, you know, computer science and distributed systems? What were you doing that led you to that?
Yeah, so I was a student in computer science, so I really liked computers, and I was studying in France, in Paris, at the time, and then I got inspired by some of my professors who were specialized in distributed computing at the time. Started reading books written by researchers as well, trying to understand some of the fundamental impossibility results of distributed computing, and I loved it. That was really interesting, and the way it was written was almost mathematical. So it was computer science, not pure mathematics, but it was formal enough such that you could really reason about things. You know, whether you would be correct or wrong, you would see that through the reasoning of the formalization, and I liked it. So I decided to pursue research, engineering to learn. Actually, that's what I liked, learning more and more. So I decided to do more and more of that. And I had an opportunity to go to the US.
Oh, wow.
And to do my research over there.
Where'd you go?
Yeah, at the time I was reading the book of the head of the computer science artificial intelligence laboratory at MIT. And so I was, during my study, I had to, you know, we had to present things as students to the rest of the cohort. So I decided to choose a topic which seems very related to what I'm doing now, which is impossibility of solving consensus in the GPU model. And that was a result from Nancy Lynch, the head of the computer science and artificial intelligence laboratory at MIT at that time. And so I had the opportunity to go there and do my research and to visit MIT, as I had an advisor who was part-time over there with University of Connecticut. So that was a really interesting experience.
Okay.
And then, you know, meeting the person I was reading the book of was also very inspiring.
Okay.
And I had the chance to work with some of our students, and I think that's when I really went, you know, deep into distributed computing, which is really a sub area of computer science. At the time, there were no blockchain. We were talking about peer-to-peer kind of, or ad hoc networks. But that's what I really liked was, you know, going through this book and trying to design algorithm, like distributed algorithm. That was magical at first, but then I became better and better at designing my own distributed algorithm.
Wow. And then I think, you know, it's not just like, because you could study the math side of things alone. Like it seems like you, with the computer science side, it is that application layer. You actually get to see, you're facing a problem around distributed computing and solving consensus problems, but you're actually getting to see how does it actually apply? Like, does it actually work? Even if it's in a laboratory kind of environment, it's still like actual kind of testing. Was there like a specific aha moment for you during the course of, your studies in France and then going over there to the US? Was there like an aha moment that made you want to solve these problems of blockchain, say scalability, security, the things that, we're so used to right now, but they had their origins. What was that like aha moment for you?
Yeah, so I think there were many of them, but yeah, definitely when I was looking at this proof, like this FLP result, which shows that consensus is not possible in the general setting,
Yeah.
the way it was presented was beautiful. It's and it's something that is reused by a lot of researchers to show other impossibility results. So it's just been instrumental for a lot of my colleagues and myself. And so that was a really interesting aha moment in the sense that I found it beautiful and I wanted to be able to do the same thing, kind of. Of course, I don't think I have done like something that would be anywhere close to this impossibility result in terms of impact. But I had other aha moments when I was, like maybe 10 years forward, when I was looking at blockchain, and I thought, that's really interesting. Like, they're trying to solve consensus, but they cannot. So they are trying to bypass the solution of the consensus in order to come up with this chain. That was another aspect that made me think about, okay, if it doesn't solve the consensus and if it forks, there might be a way that the forks can go undetected for long enough, and that could lead to double spending. And when I was doing my research with my PhD student at the time, and the attack we were assuming would work finally worked, then we realized that there was another aha moment, because we knew that Ethereum could be hacked in the exact same setting that R3, the consortium of financial institutions, and CBA were using this blockchain, and we thought, oh, maybe there is room for another alternative for TradFi, traditional finance, and that was also very interesting, but that was much later.
There's let's think about like moments of discovery. Have you seen Back to the Future? Yeah, when he falls and he hits his head, and I'm talking about the Professor Brown character, also professor. And that's where he comes up with the idea after hitting his head for the flex capacitor, which is what in the movie makes time travel possible. Did you have a moment where, the thinking around what essentially is the essence of Redbelly, did that come from a particular moment, or was it a culmination of these little aha things pieced together that led you to going, this is the way the blockchain should be if you're going to do it for corporates or the regulated world? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so I think no, I didn't hit my head.
Okay, good, just checking.
But yeah, it was probably the kind of environment in which I was evolving. I was interacting with brilliant people. We were working all together, and because of the interaction, the discussion we had, when we converged little by little into this alternative. So one of my colleagues was visiting from Spain. We designed, we were talking about reliable broadcast, which was one component of the consensus. Then we started talking about consensus with my postdoc. And then we started, experimenting it. And we realized that the performance could be quite good. And then that's when we really understood that by being collaborative instead of competitive in a blockchain environment, we would be able to scale, which means, performing fast at large scale. And so it's bits and pieces that we have accumulated together, I think, and also to publish the first paper that appeared at IEEE Security and Privacy in 2021. It took us a long time to get this paper published. So I couldn't say it was like done like this.
Yeah, it wasn't a hit the head kind of movie moment. Like, that's okay, but I think I skipped over a part because that was at the University of Sydney, right? When you were doing that, like what made you come over here, and how long ago was that? Like after we got to the US part, where did you go after that?
Yeah, so I went to the US and then I decided to do my PhD in France.
Okay.
So I went back to France and then I moved back to the US. So in Cornell University.
Very cool.
Worked with Ken Bierman, Robert van Renesse, great researchers of large-scale distributed systems. So now I was looking at large-scale systems. So I started looking at the scalability problem at that time, and also during my PhD with Michel Renal and Marie Kermarek, so other researchers. And then I did a postdoc in Switzerland at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne with my colleague Rashid Garawi. And we looked at transactional processing. So it might look completely different from scalable distributed systems because we're looking at multi-core chips. But essentially, it's not so far from a distributed system because you have these threads that are communicating through shared memory, for example. So you still have this kind of concurrent executions that are trying to synchronize. And we were looking at the transaction as a programming concept that was defined by other colleagues, which was called transactional memory. And at that time, I was reading some books about transactional processing. And the funny thing is that I received an email from a researcher at the University of Sydney, who was professor, saying, oh, we have positions, academic position at the University of Sydney. And because this person was also a person I read from, because he had worked on transactional processing, it was also, I think it was a postdoc with Nancy Lynch, the head of the CCL department. And I felt like, oh, that would be cool to work in Australia with him, right? And then I responded to the offer, and then I got a position. So I moved to Australia.
What year was that?
And that was 2012. So
wow,
13 years ago.
Jeez.
Time flies.
It literally does.
Yeah, and that's why I came to Australia.
So with all the work that you came down here and continued these looking into these systems, I think it's interesting to see that many folks know of Redbelly as this high performance blockchain, but very few knew about the research coming out of the University of Sydney. And was it I imagine University of Sydney first and then the CSIRO part came in later, or was it did Redbelly get created from the back of both? How did that kind of come about?
I think in research it's really interesting. You get your inspiration from the people you talk to, right? So and you have to acknowledge this discussion because this is where new ideas start. So I was working at CSIRO as it was kind of a cooperative research project. So you have academics that work with CSIRO, and that's a way for research students to work with CSIRO, do their science, but also get a degree from the university, right? So a lot of academics like me would do that. They would work a little bit of their time at CSIRO. So I was doing this kind of projects, which was great because you talk to people when they are thinking differently from your colleagues academics who are teaching, and it opens up new perspectives. I was doing that, but then one student came and CSIRO was happy to fund the student working on what would be the beginning of Redbelly. I mean, it was so advanced in terms of research because we were talking about reconfiguration of the governance of the blockchain. So already quite ahead of our time in the sense that the research was going far, but of course we were so far from a product, right? That was essentially theoretical. And this student happened to work at CSIRO primarily, and I was supervising him while working with University of Sydney. And of course, on the University of Sydney side, I also had a postdoc, a PhD student. And so all together, we created the initial idea that became the patent that was commercialized.
I bet it's, when you're in the middle of innovation like that, it can seem that progress is so far away, that next step, there's so much to do. But when you look back at all the things that you've done that have added up to, at that point in time, creating Redbelly, getting the white paper out, doing all the things in the milestones, none of them would have happened had it not been for those previous steps. I think that what's important here is that a lot of it wouldn't have happened in the story of Vincent Gramoli and this work had it not been for something. I think we call it the researcher's mindset. The mindset that you have in terms of how you look at academic research and how that's valued in the creation. We see a lot of things created in the blockchain space, new projects, new pilots, new things, but there's a missing kind of link, which is that academic side of things. How important is that to you, that there's a solid academic foundation in the work that people try to do in this space?
Yeah, it's very important. The classic academic research was a very good it laid out good foundations for me to understand things. And when you look at the academic community in terms of distributed computing researchers, we all talk the same language, right? So we exchange our papers, we read each other's papers, and we use the same vocabulary. When blockchain came along, we had to read white papers, and for us, it was like a different language.
Right.
And that was very hard. But as academics, you are interested, you are curious, right? So you knew this new beast coming out, and you try to understand how it works. So we looked at it, and we started trying to understand and trying to translate in our own vocabulary how these things were working. And that's how we found out that there could be a better way. If we do this, maybe we would have some more certainty. Maybe here we would have more performance, higher performance. And that's how we started improving things for some use cases. But I think since then, 2017, a lot of ICOs were quite popular. A lot of money was raised. And what we have seen is that a lot of blockchain companies have decided to invest in research. So even though initially,
Interesting.
okay, Satoshi Nakamoto, we don't know where he comes from. But if we see the other blockchains, a lot of blockchains were started with just a white paper and some funding that they got without necessarily the academic background. But now, after they raised the money, we have seen that they were much more interested in rebuilding things with researchers, for example. I know some colleagues who are working on some particular company. They have been hired. They have been working on consensus for years with it. They have just been hired to create this lab or research department within the blockchain company now because the company can afford it, I guess.
That's interesting because it's almost like the chicken or the egg, like which one goes first? Do you do the research first? Like it sounds right to do the research first and then the application, but in that case, the application grew that they're like, oh, we're missing the research, we really need it. So backfilling for that, I think is interesting. Going back to like the Redbelly thing, the creation of what you've got here with the network, how do you kind of approach in those early days, let's call it the founding team, folks that you've mentioned, and also like those early partnerships? What did that look like early on? Because like I'm sure that a lot of people just don't know, what happened there.
Yeah, so I had to change my mindset. I was very academic focused. So I would present my result at going back to MIT. I would present it at Facebook before Facebook was interested in blockchain.
Wow.
At their headquarters in Menlo Park. I went to Visa Research. I also gave as well about Redbelly.
Okay, interesting.
But that was Visa Research. So I was talking to researchers, not the people who were working on the really on the product themselves. And I was trying to validate my ideas with this community. So this is what I've been doing my whole life, right? I was an academic, so I would go present my ideas, and then we would exchange with other academics. We would identify pitfalls. I would, improve, and then we would rediscuss. And that's how we work when you do research. What I had to do then was to change completely and to understand that I didn't have all the skills that were necessary in order to commercialize. And so I was looking for investors and people on the business side of things because I needed that. And so I ended up talking to different VCs who were also based in Australia. And I talked to them. I think 3 of them became very interested in the technology. And then I ended up working with CSIRO on the commercialization aspect. And they helped me choose the right partner.
Nice.
And we decided to go with the joint venture between Blockade, University of Sydney, and CSIRO. Because of their pedigree and because of their vision as well. And that's how we decided to do the joint venture that later commercialized the technology.
It's turned into a great network, and a lot of things have happened since obviously there was the whole setup and bringing the group together under the Redbelly name, but then also the TG, which for a lot of people in the blockchain space marks when it really becomes more of a real business. And even just in the last year, and obviously there's many years before this as we're learning about the history, but like even in the past year, there's been a lot of things that have happened. Now there's a very strong and vibrant community there asking a lot of questions, happy in some ways, unhappy in certain ways, very hard to please all of the people all the time. But I think the one thing that's remained has just, because that's ebbed and flowed, right? But I think the one thing that has remained is just this continuous innovation of the product and service, and the continuous addition of partners and people that you guys have, like with Tim, Arturo, etc., just having all these conversations with, and more people are discovering blockchain. Now, if we were here 5 years ago, harder to have conversations with banks and the real world that can really benefit. A blockchain like Redbelly fits more into this like corporate regulated kind of world, given the features of it. But what do you think is, like we're in this age where there's going to be a lot of adoption, and we can see it from all these others. So the rising tide is going to lift all these boats, and we're positioning ourselves well. But what do you think it is going to be about? It was the ICO period before, it was DeFi before. What is this era about now that we're talking to more corporates and like real world practical application of blockchain? What do you think about all of that? Tokenization, yeah.
Of course. No, yeah. So I think, and you said it well. I think we're still talking to different communities. You have this kind of DeFi community.
Yeah, yep.
You can call them degens at times.
Yeah.
And you have the TradeFi community, which is quite different.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing that it's converging. I was at so most of my team went to Token 2049 in Singapore.
Yep.
At the same time, there was Cybos, the TradeFi.
That's
conference
right. Europe.
Sydney.
Oh, it was in Sydney.
Sorry, last time I went, it was in Sydney, but I forgot. Maybe
I think it was Europe. Yeah.
The funny thing is, the main topic was in both of them, which was essentially DeFi for Token 2049 and TradeFi for Cybos, and they were all talking about stable coins. So I think now there's this convergence that we're witnessing, and it's getting better and better. Now, historically, Redbelly has always been developed and designed for real world assets, right?
Yes.
We always did that, even though at the time we were not calling that real world assets. We were looking at security, offering certainty properties.
Oh, okay.
We were always making sure that we would have a system super secure, super fast, with some certainty and determinism, and we knew it was probably not the best solution for meme coins, or crypto kitties, right?
Yeah.
But it was not the kind of use cases we were chasing. And now that we're seeing this adoption from the TradeFi side, we're kind of validating our initial thinking, like hypothesis, by saying that we have made the right decision going down that path.
I think it's fascinating, like one measure, apart from, BlackRock's getting in and tokenizing their fund, and Standard Chartered, Franklin Templeton, the banks here, the RBA doing stuff. I think a better measure is just seeing that the one that uses more in terms of TradFi versus DeFi, that uses more stablecoins, is now TradFi. TradFi wasn't using stablecoins much at all, and now they've recognized the power of programmability and the atomic settlement that you get with blockchain technology. And there was a flippening where I think it was earlier this year, more usage was out of retail, and then it flipped to being more usage of stablecoins globally and just accelerating. I can't see retail taking over that anymore because it's unleashed into this traditional space. But it harkens back to this not corporate, but like anti-establishment kind of thinking that blockchain has had. And there's this like dilemma that many people have. What do you think about like that when it comes to, the space was supposed to be about, not being centralized and like not being traditional, like capital markets and blah, 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 but now it's looking like that. Is that bad? Is it good? Is there something we can learn from that?
I personally think that we should go down the path of decentralization. And that was the topic we discussed at the OSDeFi meetup. Actually, decentralization is very important. We're seeing it every day when there is a crypto crash because Binance misestimated the price of the collateral, or because, I don't know, you lose the access to most of your internet services because AWS crashed, or Google Cloud back in June had some issue. You realize the power of decentralization, right? So you really want your services to be up and running at all times and bypassing any forms of censorship, which is also something that will become more and more important, I believe. Then you need this decentralization. Now, there's another part, which is also kind of a double-edged sword, which is the privacy part. And that also comes from the initial aspect of the cypherpunk community,
Yes.
We're thinking we don't have control. We need to. We don't want the control to be owned by a central organization. we don't want to have censorship, and I totally agree with that. But there was also this idea of anonymity. And what we can see in blockchain technologies is that this anonymity, when it's badly used, it can backlash. There was again, I mean, if you look at the news, there are so many hacks on blockchain technologies, and it often comes from the fact that people who can steal assets will get away without any penalties most of the time, right? So, and this is also coming from the fact of the anonymity that is providing by the classic blockchain technology. So I think now we're trying to find a trade-off between the full anonymity and this decentralization, censorship-resistant aspect of the technology. And we're trying to find the middle ground, let's say, where we can protect the users that are using this technology, even though they're not tech-savvy. They should be protected somehow, maybe by the government. Maybe there should be a legal recourse and to recover the money that was stolen. And on the other end, benefit from this decentralization such that we don't have like an institution that can stop everything because it decides so.
Somewhere in the middle sounds like a more ideal kind of thing, and maybe where you sit along that curve, that spectrum, so to speak, depends on the use case. But you're right, like one of those things that people we knew in the corporate world would immediately dismiss because of it's blockchain and they're technical enough to know about it, was the anonymity thing. The pseudonymous nature of blockchain, meaning that you and I can do a transaction and other people can see the transaction details, even though it's obfuscated in terms of your name and my name, because it's just transaction hashes. Being able to just see those movements. As soon as I've done a deal with a coffee shop to pay for my coffee with crypto, I can see their whole wallet address and all the things that they've done. Pseudonymity, which is what that is, can be a problem for the real world, but there's ways to solve that, and it's been investigated with like the Hutley kind of work and other work that you guys are doing. Talk to me a bit more about that. Like, how does pseudonymity get solved? You know, is it just the straight up application of zero knowledge proofs, or is there something more unique to it?
Yeah, so pseudonymity doesn't solve the privacy problem per se, because you know, you can always reveal your wallet, your account, and then it can be you know, we can trace back all your exchange, which is probably not what is wanted in a lot of use cases. So I think some level of privacy is needed. I think what is really nice is when you can use this cryptographic technology like zero knowledge proof in order to just prove that you have access and you're a legitimate access to some financial service, but without revealing any extra information whatsoever, right? So instead of showing, you know, your passport in order to access to a financial service, you just reveal the fact that you're a sophisticated investor, right? You don't need to say where you live or what is your date of birth.
Unnecessary.
Yeah, so exactly, like sharing this minimal information with the parties that you want to is key, and zero knowledge proof allows you to do that. Now we've been working leveraging zero knowledge proof on use cases, including with Hutley on rent rolls. And what is important when we work on these use cases, we realize how important it is to obfuscate the amount that is being transferred between the partners, but also even the account of the sender or the account of the receiver, right? So you need to obfuscate these things. And again, zero knowledge proof can be used, as we demonstrated recently, in this type of use cases, to obfuscate or to reach the level of privacy that is needed.
I think there's a lot that we'll definitely unpack there more, because that's one of it's almost like a best of both worlds to me, you know, being previously a lay person in terms of blockchain. But when we got into the space a few years ago, and it's like, okay, great, it's programmable, and it wasn't fast. Now it's fast. It's faster than traditional kind of payment rails and stuff in terms of the TPS that we've seen. But there was always this problem of the confidentiality and how are businesses and real world folks supposed to use it because of that. But if that's solved for, it is this best of both worlds sort of thing that we're seeing. Just jumping to leadership and culture in the sense of like what you guys are doing over there. What do you kind of look for in people that, let's say that, you know, they're looking to join the team, they want to become part of this movement? What does Redbelly kind of look for in folks out there?
Yeah, so we need computer scientists.
Great.
That's for sure.
Tick, yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking for the most brilliant people who can help and contribute with some ideas, but also with some skills on all sorts of things. So we're also expanding on the product side of things. So we've been, a lot focused on the architecture, the platform.
Yeah.
For the last year, the SLA, like the level of availability, was 100%, right? So I think we have achieved something that is quite reliable, that offers very good performances. I think that was ChainSpec that reported, 1,000 transactions per second in terms of throughput observed on mainnet. It's not capacity throughput; it's just what they observed. The latency is, last time I checked, the time it would take for one block to be appended is less than a second. It's half a second, essentially.
Like that.
So you send a transaction in half a second, it's part of a block that has been appended. So it's almost instantaneous. So in terms of the infrastructure that we have developed, we have reached something that is extremely robust. And now we want also to make sure that we're developing the products on top. For example, facilitating the access to this kind of tricky technology. Most of the users don't want to access MetaMask, right? So we have to also lower the barrier of entry. And the way you do that is by developing user interfaces that will facilitate the access. Maybe they will hide the public key, right? So that you don't have to use them.
Yeah.
And that's what we're focusing on, trying to simplify the access to this technology.
I think it's fascinating kind of work in terms of all these different blockchains, like solving for something that I think is really going to be driving the future usage of blockchain. Ideally, we're in a world where in a few years' time, people aren't even talking about blockchain. It's just tech, right? But we're still a way away from that. Or that we're in a world where businesses don't even have it as a second thought. They just know that blockchain is the best like tech to cover off on logistics, payment rails, transactional kind of stuff. But away from all of that, just going back to you, Vincent, like what outside of work and the stuff that you do, what inspires you? What kind of things do you look towards to relax and, be inspired by?
You mean outside work?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So outside work, I work a lot. So I spend a lot of time working.
We know.
But
in that rare moment that you do,
I love to surf.
Okay, no way.
I live in Sydney, so why not? That's a great spot for surfing. I play different sports.
Okay.
I'm into a few sports like soccer.
Yeah. Do you have a team that you're a big fan of?
I used to have a team.
Okay.
I was playing 11 aside, and I gave up because I got injured too many times. So now I do 6 aside. We're not allowed to tackle.
Okay.
So it's good for all like me.
Yeah, no slide tackles or anything like that.
Yeah, it's much less dangerous. Even though my teammates keep injuring themselves, but it's been lucky so far.
They're injuring themselves. At least they're not injuring each other. So there's a difference there.
Yeah, not
right? But what about like team? Do you have a team that you follow overseas or anything?
Yes.
Or a few.
Paris Saint-Germain, of course.
Cool.
Paris.
Yeah.
Because I come from there.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Did you get to see a few games when you were over there and stuff?
Yeah. So I brought my kids to see Mbappe when he was playing with Paris Saint-Germain.
Amazing.
Traveling to Europe. So this is something that I like to share with them, and they are really into soccer as well. So that's like a bonding thing. And I'm more into music with my daughter. So
fantastic.
I play piano and guitar, and she's
And has she made you have to listen to like Taylor Swift? Is that on your Spotify playlist now?
Billie Eilish a lot.
Billie Eilish.
She went to the concert of Taylor Swift, and she's singing Billie Eilish, so I'm super proud.
Love it. Well, there's going to be ways where blockchain is probably being used in terms of how payments get done in all of those different spaces. So little do folks know it, but how we do commerce and transactions and finance and all of our favorite things outside of work, I think is going to be affected by blockchain. But for now, Vincent Gramoli from Redbelly, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Mark.
Cheers.
Yeah. Started in the land down under Redbelly in the mix. Blockchain revolution, fixing all the tricks. Vincent Gramoli, visionary in the game. Built a fork-proof chain, bringing the flame. Fast and secure, 6 it'll K. TPS, finality and truth, no stress, no mess. Every transaction, clear as day. In the world of tokens, we're here to stay. Redbelly changing the game, tokenizing assets, bringing the flame. From Sydney to global, making it real. With compliance and speed, we're the real deal. Cash solution, that's our creed. For regulated markets, we plant the seed. Verify credentials, zero knowledge proof. Safe and swift, that's our groove. Partner with Silo and DFCRC. Built-in bridges from Web 2 to Web3. Rule of law with tech combined in the blockchain space. space, we're redefining the grind. Redbelly changing the game, tokenizing assets, bringing the flame. Who's in need of global, making it real. With compliance and speed, we're the real deal. Finality in transactions, instant and clear. Accountability in every field. High throughput, security tight. In the blockchain world, we bring the light. Redbelly changing the game, tokenizing assets, bringing the flame. From Sydney to global, making it real. With compliance and speed, we're the real deal. Redbelly changing the game, tokenizing assets, bringing the flame. From Sydney to global, making it real. With compliance and speed, we're the real deal. Cash solution, that's our creed. For regulated markets, we plant the seed. Verified credentials, zero knowledge proof. Safe and swift, that's our groove. Partner with Zyro and DFCRC. Built-in bridges from Web 2 to Web3. Rule of law with tech combined. In the blockchain space, we're redefining the grind. Redbelly changing the game, tokenizing assets, bringing the flame. From Sydney to global, making it real. With compliance and speed, we're the real deal. Redbelly changing the game, tokenizing assets, bringing the flame. From Sydney to global, making it real. With compliance and speed, we're the real deal. Finality in transactions, instant and clear. Accountability in every field. High throughput, security tight. In the blockchain world, we bring the light. Finality in transactions, instant and clear. Accountability in every peer. High throughput, security tight. In the blockchain world, we bring the light. Redbelly changing the game, tokenizing assets, bringing the flame. From Sydney to global, making it real. With compliance and speed, we're the real deal. Redbelly changing the game, tokenizing assets, bringing the flame. From Sydney to global, making it real. With compliance and speed, we're the real